So we're back at it again in the garage working on the E30. As we mentioned in the previous videos, there's some stuff going on behind the background with the E46, which is us just sorting it out, but we'll come back to that once it's at a stage where we can kind of do some stuff with it. At the moment it's kind of just preparing it to go to like specialist shops. Fair bit of work's being done off camera. It's all kind of just boring stuff, like sorting out all the wiring underneath it and just like rewrapping it, making sure everything's fine. Anything that had started to go bad in like all grounds and whatnot have all been replaced and then resoldered, and any wires that started to fray had been cut the section out and then replaced, and kind of boring stuff. So we'll give you guys a quick walkthrough on that stuff that's been done.
Yeah, and basically what we're gonna do now and start getting it ready for panel and paint, and we've got a couple of goodies that we can start showing you that have arrived, and it's getting to the point now where we're starting to put some finishing details on it, and well, putting finishing details on it, then pulling it apart to take it down to paint.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, no, it's getting to a stage now where it's reaching completion almost. But,
so
yeah, we'll
jump into having a look at the radiator.
Yep.
We're missing one radiator hose still, but we'll jump into having a look at that. Continuation of the airbox. Quickly going to whip the doors off because they've got to go get prepared for paint, and then maybe if we have time we'll have a look at the aftermarket gauges as well.
Yeah.
Cool, let's have a look.
Okay, so I'll just show you what Luke's been working on in the background while I've been at work. So, I don't know if you can see that from the lighting. Bit of a weird one, but Luke's sorted out all the wiring for the head unit and done it all properly, tucked it, and he's also done all of the vent setups and cables as well, which is really nice. Sorted out all the ECU and the wiring underneath the driver's side. You can see the ECU is just tucked right there, which is nice. Used the factory mounts but didn't have any bolts, so it's just cable tied for now, which is fine. And he's tucked all of this wiring and this loom that you can see here. He's just done a really nice job. I think last time you saw all of that was exposed, and now he's gone ahead and routed it all really nicely, which is super win. Took him a bit of a time. Lucky I wasn't there for it. I hate wiring. And some goodies have arrived, as you can see. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's a little sneak peek. And yeah, we'll get into taking the doors off and getting them ready to go down tomorrow for panel and paint. So we just took the doors off and brought the E30 back inside because the weather is heinous and it's cold. So doors off, back in, and we've just unboxed our cut, well, those 3 pieces that we made out of cardboard last time in the last video. We got cut and we've just kind of masking taped them together just so we can see how it fits. And not gonna lie, Luke and I were saying for a quick little measure and cut job, it's done pretty well, but we wouldn't mind putting a radius just around here or even lowering this. But there is going to be rubber window seal going around here and probably around this top as well, so we might steal some from another car and have a look if we can have some. But other than that, it actually worked out pretty good
for a first attempt.
Yeah, for a first
We've
attempt.
got to work out, we'll have to grab a filter, which I'll grab during the week, but something just so that we can work out where the filter needs to be, because we'll probably need to put like a little radius just to tilt it down a bit before we can get to the pod filter.
Yeah.
We know that the headlights don't come past here because there's a plastic cover that goes there. And that has a duct in it as well to let air in, but I think we won't even run the cover on this side at all, which will just let air rush around the headlight straight into here.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is we kind of just want it to be really clean. I mean, it's not exactly a race car setup or anything, but we do want it to do its job, and we do want it to perform like a healthy 2.8 should. So
what we might do is just quickly, I might grab those radiuses that we measured for the bends, and we'll just see how close our estimate was to what it ended up being, because that's pretty straight. But yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with that as far as how that sits. We can have a look at how we're going to mount it, but we'll try to pick up some factory points, and maybe just one at the top up here, one at the bottom, and one over here should be more than enough.
yeah. And depending on how much it hugs the bonnet as well, it might end up kind of just sitting quite nicely there.
Yeah, I think it honestly, like, for the purposes of what we're doing, that's blocking enough air that's coming in that even if a little bit it's going to spill out and over into the engine bay, it's going to be fine, because it's not really like hot air is going to be sucked into here.
Yeah.
We're just trying to block the intake from sucking air from right here or here. I think for the purposes of what we're doing, that's okay. We can always build a lid to put on it if we need to, like just measure that and make a little, fold those at a 90 with a little rib nuts, but
yeah, when we get the bonnet back, if we're always unhappy with kind of how it's sitting, we can always just add a lid. I mean, we saw how well this went for us. It's cardboard, cut out a lid.
Yeah, that's CAD.
Yeah, that's CAD, yeah.
Cardboard edge design.
Alright, cool. So,
we'll probably just fiddle with this for a minute.
yeah, we're gonna just... we'll probably just fuck around with this for a bit, and then...
fuel filter.
Yeah, we're gonna mount the fuel filter. We think we debriefed that on the last video, but yeah, we've got the fuel filter, but we don't have it mounted.
I can't remember where it was.
Yeah, I mean, the fuel filter's just kind of sitting on that ledge at the moment.
We're going to have to change the filter after a while as well, just because the fuel tank had been sitting for quite a while whilst we checked and there was no rust in the fuel tank. It still smelled pretty bad, so once we flush this through, say a couple tanks of fuel, we'll pull that filter off and put a new one on.
Yeah.
Just to make sure there's nothing in. At that point we might also get the injectors cleaned and balanced just to make sure they're all running right.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Alright, cool, nice. So Luke and I were just fiddling around with some boring stuff, just mounting the fuel filter on the strut tower there and its stock mounts. A little bit boring, we just cut the hoses to size and bolted the mount on, which is good. So that's all done and tucked under there now. It means we can focus more on getting all of this sort of stuff sorted. Ultimately we're going to have to go back down there, like Luke said, after the first few fuel tanks and change it over just to clear out all the old stuff that's been sitting in this. So we'll deal with that later at a very, very later date, but now it's all mounted and we don't have to worry about it, which is good. So now we're probably going to move on to something fun and do these gauges, which is going to be awesome. So finally we get to start fiddling around with some really cool stuff that, well, funny enough, these have actually been here for a while, but we've just been putting them off for now, which is great. So we've got our, as you can see there, our batteries or voltage meter, and then degrees Celsius in the coolant temp, and then oil temp as well, which will be great. So we're gonna have those nice and tucked down here, which would be good. So we just need to start sorting out the center console and also probably get into cleaning up all of this under and putting in the glove box, which would be good as well. So kind of finishing details and fun stuff at the moment, but it also means that we can test all of those temp switches that you saw us put in a earlier video. So we'll get into doing that.
I can just size wide.
Okay, so at the moment we're just figuring out where we want each gauge to go. We're thinking that we're going to put the oil temp one far right, then our coolant temp, and then our batteries over this side. Now we just need to work out that we have our actual switches already wired in, but we're going to have to make a harness that we're going to run to all three of these that we can just plug in and out. So Luke is currently messing around trying to find fittings for that, which is good. But I'm just gonna fiddle around and put these in and make sure they fit in the mount quite nicely. This is the mount that we're gonna run. It goes nicely in the center console. So yeah, I'm just gonna organize these and get them all like squared up, and then we'll start messing around with some wiring. So while Luke fiddles around with the wiring for the gauges, I've gone ahead and got the center console out, which has seen better days. But it's kind of all we got. It's quite hard to find a manual one with manual windows, which is kind of what we're going for and what we've got. This one's a bit chewed out here, but that gauge cluster actually sits where the cigarette lighter and the tray goes. We'll just have to unscrew it and it mounts right here, so it's really tidy with the rest of the car and not super obnoxious looking, which is kind of what we're going for. But I don't know if you can see, this thing's extremely dusty and just been sitting for so long. So I'm just going to give it a quick clean with some multi-purpose cleaner, and then it can go in the car and we can start figuring out where that's going to go. So Luke's just finished the harness and also just connected the pins to the lights. That way when we pull the actual lights of the car out, the lights of the gauges will also go on. So I'm just going to plug in the harness that Luke has just made, which is just connected to the lights, just to see, make sure it actually all works. So let's just do that now. So we go plug in that, and then it should be able to. Fuck, that's very, very nice. So just check that again. It's off, on, nice, and all, they come on with all the rest of the car as well. So just a quick check up on what we've been doing. We've just been doing all of the wiring for the actual gauges and the actual all the sensors and stuff like that. So this was the one for our lights that you saw before. This is the other plug, and I've just been routing those and pinning them in here. I just had to find a ground, which we've just used the normal one there and just routed it along the same wires, and then just tucked it all under. Where's the light? So just follow those green and blue ones and just tuck them under properly. So they've come out of there. So that's good. And Luke has been finishing up the rest of the wiring on the actual gauges. He's just finishing up now, just connecting all of his, the rest of the negatives. So yeah, we'll test it all in a quick second.
Okay, so harness is finally done. We haven't wrapped it yet, but we're just going to quickly test it to make sure everything's working. Obviously we won't be able to test the water and oil temp yet, just because, well, A, it doesn't have a radiator, and B, the lowest point for the oil temp is 50 degrees, and it's a bit late to let it idle up to that. Especially with no water, it won't get to that.
So, we'll go
ignition on.
Ignition on.
The voltmeter's coming up. Yep, the lights on.
And the lights are on as well, which is nice.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll quickly wrap those wires and then screw it into place and we're done.
Nice.
So we're finally done with this. Feels like it's been quite a long night, but it always kind of feels like it's been a long night when you have to do wiring. So we've done 2 plugs. We've got the lights on their own switch, obviously, because they've got to have a switched power, which we've just taken from one of the switch bulbs in the dash. And then we've got our switched power, obviously, coming in through here as well for the gauges, so that they're only on when the ignition's on. And then we've got our 2 sensor wires there, which is our oil temp and water temp. Running all through them, 2 plugs, just 2 little Deutsch connectors, keeping everything tidy so that it can all be disconnected. It sits in there, and Harry's just going to throw it in the car. Really nice. We've got to route the wires as well around the back, so we'll quickly do that and then come back once it's in for a final view.
So just finished putting these in the car. Really tidy. They sit so flush and so even, and it just looks so natural with the original body, and with the period correct head unit that we ordered, it's actually tying together really nicely. So this head unit doesn't have Bluetooth, but does have an AUX, which is quite nice, and because we updated the speakers in the car with those Rockefellers, it's actually quite a good sound. So, you know, it's kind of a nice accomplishment when you're working on a car to kind of start seeing what you're going to be looking at most of the time while driving it come together, and with all of the lights and the gauges all working and everything hooked up now, it's starting to come together. So after paint and all the prep, it's going to be nice to start putting the interior completely back together and have it all done.
Sweet. So that's about done for us then?
Yep, that's us done for the day.
Cool. We'll jump back into another video with us. We're going to do it probably over the weekend, and we're going to smash out. We're going to lift the car back up again because we've got to work on the front of the car, and it hurts our backs to not have it.
Yeah, it's surprisingly quite low when you're working on the car.
So we're going to put a radiator in it because even though we said we got one, it's the wrong one.
No expansion tank, unfortunately, so we're just going to have to go back and swap it out, but that's all good.
So we'll swap it out for the right one, and then make sure that we've got good fluids in the diff, the gearbox, and the engine, and then bleed the radiator. We should be done.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll see you guys next time.
Sweet. May as well go through our list as well.
Airbox, no.
Fuel rail, yep.
Yeah, fuel rail cover.
Yeah.
Done.
Reverse light, I did that.
Fuel lines are done.
Yeah, fuel lines are done.
Reverse lights done.
Yeah. Heater core face parts are done.
Yeah.
Interior wiring's done. We need to do the pedal setup, but we can do that over the weekend. Gauge
harness is done now.
Yeah. Shifter's done.
Shifter is done.
The other stuff, that's a shopping list.
That's a shopping list, but
Boot interior, we're waiting. HVAC's done.
Yeah, HVAC's done.
This tape's been on here a while.
Yeah. Oof, that's an old list.
Cluster's done.
Yep, cluster. Trim. Nope.
Wiring's done. Should be completely finished with wiring now.
Oh, other than headlights and stuff, but I mean, it's not really main harness or anything.
Seats, console. We'll probably leave that just because we've got a bit more console pieces to do.
Head unit and speakers can come off.
Head unit, speakers. Yep, all we've got to do left is the head unit is just attach it in properly, but we'll worry about that after we're finished. Might actually do that over the weekend as well because there's actually no reason why that can't go in.
Yeah, and we won't peel off center dash yet because we haven't actually.
Yeah, we'll wait till we've got to find a couple blanking plates for the spare plugs and whatnot. Rest of that can stay for the moment, and there is a couple on the other side of the car, but I can't remember what they are. Oh, yep, you did that, but we'll leave it on for with bonnet release cable and latch. We
put it on, but we haven't set it yet because we don't have the bonnet, so we'll just wait for that.
Interior trim, we just got to sort some stuff out, so I'll worry about that later.